Hi guys. So today's video is going to be a non-spoiler review for And I Darken by Kiersten White. This book is a historical fiction retelling of Vlad the Impaler, but instead of that character being a man, it's a gender swap, so now it's a story about if that character were a female. I will get more into the plot in just a second, but I do actually want to not a disclaimer, but I do want to talk about just the idea of it being historical fiction, because I have seen a lot of people be upset at this book for not being 100% accurate. I think it's completely fair when reading a historical fiction book to want the author to have done their research to have it be fairly accurate. However, I think how historically accurate the book is and how much you hold the value and the quality of the book to that is going to be dependent on every individual. For me personally, I'm not doing this review based off of how historically accurate this book is. I am never going to pick up a historical fiction book and expect it to be non-fiction. It's not, it's fiction. That said, I want to get into the actual more formal portion of this video as a book review. Getting into the premise of the book, beyond it just being a historical retelling of Vlad the Impaler as a female, that female's name is Lotta, it also actually to me was so much different than what I was expecting based off of that description. The book starts off with Lotta being born, and then a little bit later her brother being born, and we see them from the time of their birth to early adulthood. When Lotta and Radu are young, we see them in their own country. It's an Eastern European setting, but their father is a man that's in some position of power, and their setting and the majority of the book actually shifts to taking place in the Ottoman Empire. This occurs because the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, they make this treaty with their father saying, you'll essentially rule as one of our subjects, and to hold you to that, we're going to take your children as hostages. Despite being hostages, the Ottoman Empire is quite kind to Lotta and Radu, but Lotta has absolutely none of it. She hates it. She wants to go home. She had a strong connection to their home, and her brother Radu definitely starts to have more of a connection with this new home that's been presented to them. While they're there, they do befriend a boy named Mahmed, who is supposed to be third in line for the throne, and Radu and Lotta end up at some point kind of getting all mixed up in a lot of the political happenings in the Ottoman Empire. I do think it's rare in books to see sibling relationships really play out into the story, and hers and Radu's does. It's not a great relationship at all. I wouldn't say it's not a healthy one that you want to emulate, but I thought because you see them from the time that they are so young, so much of their personalities play a role in how they behave toward one another. Lotta is definitely out to prove herself all the time. She always has to be the best at everything, because when she was younger, her father didn't think that she had any use because she was a girl, and so she was constantly trying to show that she is a useful individual. And Radu's personality is just that he's sweet and he's nice. He just kind of wants people to be nice to each other, and so the two of them just within their personalities are already so different, because in some ways their father put them up for hostage to avoid there being any kind of violence or to avoid having to risk his rule. They definitely feel abandoned, they feel alone, they feel very isolated for a very long time, and so that kind of brings them together despite the fact that their personalities should be pushing them way apart. I will admit that when the book first started, I didn't know how much the characters were really going to feel fleshed out and well developed, because we start with them being born and you get kind of this bird's eye view of them, meaning it feels like the narrator is very distant from the feelings of the actual characters. But very slowly, as the story continues on, we do go from seeing them and being told about them to really feeling like we're a part of the story with them. I can definitely see where this would put some people off, especially if you are the kind of person that prefers to be hooked right away. I enjoyed the beginning. I enjoyed all that slow build up to getting to know these characters, so I personally didn't mind. But if you're the kind of person that doesn't ever want to be so distant from the characters and you want to be with them from the beginning, you might not get that. I really did enjoy the writing as well. I thought it read really easily. I also want to mention though the pacing of this book, because I also feel like this book, the pacing isn't what you would expect. If you're looking for a story where it's like, those are the bad guys, those are the people we're going to take out, that is not this book whatsoever. It's somewhat of a meandering story because you're really just following their lives, and I found their lives super interesting, but other people are not. If you're not going to be interested in a story where there's not a ton of action and there's not set goals and motivations, then I don't know if you're going to be pulled along by this story. It's difficult for me to say that this book is character driven because in the beginning you don't have that really close connection to the characters, but at some point it does become extremely character driven. The difference though is I would say some books are character driven because you care about the characters' motivations, and then some books are character driven because you care about the characters. And I would say this one falls into the latter group because the motivations are kind of more of, I want to have power and I want to be useful. I mean, that's Lotta, and then her brother's like, I just want to kind of chill. I mean, that's kind of his thing. And so, you know, they don't have like a set, like, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to go down, I have to achieve this or else. It's not that kind of a story. It's just, hey, here's these two siblings, let's follow them where they go. This book also had a good amount of representation. And what I mean by representation is that you already have a setting and a lot of the characters that I personally don't see very often. I don't see the Ottoman Empire and the Islamic faith really portrayed in stories very much. So you got some of that, and you didn't get it sugar-coated and saying like everybody here is perfect, and you also didn't get it like everybody here is evil. It wasn't anything like that. It was just, look, they're people and they're not defined by this. It's just a part of them. Some of them you'll like, and some of them kind of suck, just like, you know, in the real world with real human beings. There's also some representation for sexual orientations, and I don't know that I've come across a book that I think really explores that better. I don't want to say who in this book is gay because I don't want to give that away for anybody, but it is something that I think was done really well because in this particular society, people who are gay are not really accepted, so it does have to be kept withheld, it has to be kept secret. So it can start to become an all-consuming thing because you feel like you're constantly in danger. Oh my gosh, what if somebody notices? What if somebody sees? What if somebody can tell? So when it was presented in the book, it was a big deal for the particular character, and there's a couple others that it mentions. When it is presented, it's a big deal, but I didn't at any point feel like that character was just in there to be the gay character. It also really showed how much sometimes people's feelings can conflict with their religious beliefs. And again, I don't want to give away spoilers, but I think that that's something that I would love to see more of in books, because I think even nowadays, as accepting as people try to be, they do tend to assume that, oh, if you're this faith, you believe these things, or if you are gay, you can't be a person of faith. And so I think that this book did a really good job exploring, like, well, that might not be true. Maybe don't make assumptions. Overall, I thought this book ended up portraying so many more things than I was expecting. I really enjoyed the story. I think it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly what the story was because, like I said, you're just following these characters' lives. But I always found their lives super interesting. I feel kind of bad saying it was entertaining, but I did always want to flip the page. I mean, it only took me a couple of sittings to read this entire book. I do think, though, the fact that we go from so distant to the characters to closer up might not be a lot of people's favorite thing. I think because it's not super historically accurate, that anybody that has a close connection to the setting might have a little bit of a harder time with some of the historical inaccuracies. All in all, though, I mean, so many things are explored in this book. I think so many things are explored in a way where it feels natural. I thought the character development always felt really natural. Their personalities, how they developed into the individuals they become, felt really real. And I also really loved that so many of the characters are very morally gray. They are not perfect individuals. They are extremely flawed. That's it, though. If you have read this book, let me know your thoughts on it. If you're interested in reading it, let me know if there were certain elements of this that you think sound definitely interesting to you, if there are certain things that you're not sure you're going to be a fan of. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Happy reading, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.